In this lesson, we're looking at linear modelling. So if we look at linear, we're still talking about y equals mx plus c. And we're saying that the y value here depends on the value of x. So x is our independent variable and y is our dependent variable. So the value of y depends on what x is. So when graphed, the independent variable is shown on the x-axis, or the horizontal, and the dependent is on the y-axis, or our vertical axis. So if we were to think about our graph, this would be our independent, and this would be our dependent. So if we look at our example, Jessica is organising her 18th birthday party. The total cost of the party includes $300 for the hire of the function room, $220 for the music, and $23 per person for catering. So this table shows the cost in C dollars for the different number of guests N attending the party. So if we look at this table, so if she were to have 20 guests, the cost is going to be $980. 35 guests, $1,325, and so on. So which variable, N or C, is our dependent variable? So in this, which one is dependent on the other? So C is our dependent, as it will change depending on the number of guests that arrive. So depending on n is the number of guests. So then we need to write a linear function for c in terms of n. So if we think our linear function is y equals mx plus c, and I'm just going to rearrange and put in the values that we've got here from our example. So instead of y, we have c. M is what our gradient technically is, and this is where it changes for, this becomes our $23 per person. So this is 23. Our x, so this would technically be our x and y, changes to an n for the number of guests, so $23 per guest. And then the c is the variable that doesn't change here. So the amount that she needs to pay regardless of how many guests is the $300 for the hire and the $220 for music. So that gives us $520. So just so we know what these are, this is our gradient, or the cost per person. And this 520 is our y-intercept, which is the price regardless of the number of people. All right, so down to our next question. It says, if this function was graphed, which variable would be shown on the vertical axis? So if we think back up here, our vertical axis is our dependent variable. So the one that is on our dependent variable is our cost. So the cost will change depending on the number of people that attend the party. What does the vertical intercept of the function represent? And that's what we've just spoke about. That is our music and function hire, function room hire. And the last question says, find the cost of the party if there were 80 guests. So we use our formula from above, which is C equals 23n plus 520, and 80 goes into the place of n. So 23 times 80 plus $520. And that will tell us the cost is $2,360. And this is where a lot of businesses work out how much money that they need to make on potentially ticket sales in order to make a profit with how much output they're having to pay. That's putting it into that real life context so you can see where this is really used.